SuperTalk.fm. We're also streaming from that SuperTalk Mississippi app and your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. And don't forget, you can watch us if you would like on your computer or your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. You'll see I have some lovely faces in the studio today, which always brings me joy. Joining us is Miss Ava Clarke Edney. She is your Mississippi's 2024 Children's Miracle Network Hospitals Champion. It's a mouthful, but she's one of 14 national champions for the nonprofit this year, and she is joined by her mom, Shala, to share her story and inspire others. Ava, I've already read through some of your story, and you've already inspired me, and we've only known each other for about 5 minutes, so I appreciate your time being here. So let's get started, because to be a Miracle Network Hospital champion, you have to be a patient at a Miracle Hospital to do that. So either Ava or your mom, because I know that kind of starts with mom too, how did your family find your way to Children's of Mississippi?
Well, I was actually an employee at UMC in the Department of Radiology, and with both of my children, we knew that we wanted to have our children born at UMC and at Batson Children's Hospital to make sure that if anything happened, if there were any complications, they would be in the best care. So that's how we got there.
So obviously had a normal pregnancy and all the things, and then Ava comes around 16 years ago. When's your birthday, Ava?
March 23rd.
Almost 17 years ago.
And surprisingly, Ava was actually born a little bit early. I was a high-risk patient because of my age, but she was born on Easter Sunday.
And my brother was born on Christmas.
Day. Both of them
Mama.
early. I know. I know.
Early, but also
Pretty
what
cool.
unique, but
Such
then
a
also
blessing.
sorry later on in life.
So, again, it was a normal delivery. Ava scared us just a little bit and had a very brief stint in NICU for observation, but we were able to go home together maybe 3 days later. And during feedings, Ava didn't respond visually, and I just knew that there was something wrong with something. Didn't know exactly what it was, but she didn't respond and interact with me the way that her brother had. So I, told my husband, hey, I think something's wrong. She's not interacting. She's not kind of, honing in on me the way that our younger son, Alvin, had, and he reassured me. She was born a little bit early. She's still developing.
Give her some time.
Give her some time. It's going to be okay. And after a week or so, I made a call to our pediatrician. And when I told him that the pediatrician referred us to our pediatric ophthalmologist, his response let me know that he also knew that there was something wrong. So we went to our pediatric ophthalmologist, who is Dr. Mungan, Ava's favorite.
I absolutely love him.
And he confirmed that she had oculocutaneous albinism.
Glad you can say that.
Yeah, I've said it for like
taking
almost
a bit of
17
practice.
years.
Well, I was a little scared of it when I saw it, to be honest with you. But so what does that mean?
So oculocutaneous albinism is albinism. A lot of people, the generic term is albino, but the medical term is oculocutaneous albinism, and it's where Ava, I'm going to let you describe. She does so well.
It's mainly focused on my vision. So I have albinism, which means that I'm not able to produce melanin. So my skin color, my hair color, my eye color is completely different than the rest of my family's, but also I'm legally blind. So I have something called nystagmus, which makes my eyes shift back and forth because they can't focus, and that's due to my diagnosis of oculocutaneous albinism. And being legally blind, you have to have a certain level of vision. I believe it's like 220 or something like that. So my vision is probably worse than that. So I am diagnosed as being legally blind, but I can still see. My vision is just very, very low.
Yeah.
So, Mama, when you get something like that, I mean, how do you process? How did your family? Obviously, she hasn't let anything stop her. But you couldn't see almost 17 years into the future.
Exactly. So, even though I tell people all the time, even though we went in knowing that something was wrong, to get a formal medical diagnosis from Dr. Mungan was devastating. Everyone expects and wants to have a perfect child with no complications, no
health
ailments,
hurdles.
no health hurdles. And hearing that official diagnosis it floored us, I remember when he told us that she had albinism, we didn't know. We had no knowledge of what that meant, what it was. And he went through all of his medical terminology, and he told us about the function of the eyes and how hers was different. And afterwards, because we're at Batson Children's Hospital, we're at, the only pediatric hospital in the state of Mississippi, my next question was, how do we fix it? Now, he had said already there's no medical way to cure this. It's no surgeries that will fix it. But as a mom, I heard none of that. I'm like, this is the diagnosis. Now, what do we do? And what we've done over the last 16
almost 17
years, 9 months, is gone through therapy, gone through all of the, they've provided all of the resources that we need, to get Ava to where she is.
Which is thriving and beautiful and all the things. So, Ava, at what point, because you were born with this, so it's not like you really know reality any differently, which is, I don't know, for those that do, it's like, oh, but for you, it's like this is just, sort of life.
Normal, right.
But at some point, when did you recognize that maybe others could see different or didn't have as many doctor's appointments, I'm sure, or either? At what point did it become a little bit more aware for you?
So I was diagnosed as being fully blind, and over time, we started off going to the hospital, I think, every 6 months. So I kind of...
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months. So being in preschool and going to the doctor that often, I don't think I really knew that there was any difference. But then it became every 6 months. So I knew I was getting better, but I think I was, at that time when I was going every 6 months, I was probably in elementary school, and I would be in class and I would be doing work or looking at the board, and I would, either have to go up and stand at the board or look at my papers really close, and kids will be like, Ava, why are you looking that close? Stand back or look back a little bit. And I'd be like, well, that's kind of what I need to be able to see what we're doing. And so I think that's really the moment when I realized that something was different. But even now, I always do what's best for me. So it didn't stop me from doing what I needed to do. I do think that in elementary school, I was a little bit more ashamed of having to do those things just because kids then are so...
mean.
Yes.
Kids are mean.
Yeah, plain and simple. Yeah, just mean.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, and having, two of my own and sort of watching it and trying to parent wisely, you recognize some of it is fostered within their own environment, and then some of it is just natural curiosity of why is that a difference?
And there is a difference in curiosity and being mean.
Because so many of my friends are curious, even now, friends that I've had since kindergarten, and they'll still ask me questions, but they know me so well and they care so much about me that they're there with me through anything. I always say that I have someone that's like a sight dog that's like my friend, and they'll be with me when I'm going anywhere. And let's say I'm going to the mall or something. They'll walk with me everywhere, make sure I have everything I need. So I definitely know the difference now between those types of people that really care and people that are just mean. Yeah, just mean.
Unfortunately, that's what I tell my kids all the time. There's mean people everywhere. You don't outgrow them. They just grow up too. You have to learn to sort of walk through those waters. And I can imagine too, as a mom, recognizing that not only is just growing up hard, but now growing up. But you didn't. Somehow she came out strong and courageous in sort of that way. Was that intentional in the way y'all encouraged her to not retreat back, to ask for what she needed?
Yes. So, as you can see, she's very vocal. She strives to be independent. And even though she had to adjust and find ways to accommodate her slight differences, she was always determined to do whatever it was that she was set out to do. Now, initially, you ask about initial diagnosis. Initially, my first response was, worrying and being distraught about all the things that I felt like she wasn't going to be able to do. She'll never be able to ride a bike, or all the things that she'll never be able to see. But down the road, I finally realized that what is known as a medical genetic imperfection is like the perfect perfection. It's like
the way she was meant to be.
It's God's
and we're going to learn
perfection.
more about Ava's story coming up. Did that always on your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. And I'd love for you to watch us too. You can do that on your computer or your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. We're continuing our conversation with Ava Clarke Edney and her mom Shala. She is Mississippi's 2024 Children's Miracle Network Hospitals champion, one of 14 national champions for this year. And I think that's an incredible accomplishment, but also a testament to, what the hospital thinks in terms of you going out there and sharing the good news of what they do. So how did this happen, Ava? Obviously, you had to be a patient, and we walked through that of how you're intertwined there at Children's of Mississippi. But how did the champion come about?
So I've been working with the hospital for a few years now, a very long time, probably from around the age of like 5. I was doing a few campaigns here and there for the hospital, calendars, and maybe a few video promotions. But over time, I began to become really involved with the hospital, and I think they started to notice that. And so I think there's like a board or something that selects the regional champion. So I became the regional champion for the hospital in 2024, and I got to talk about the hospital, go to different events in Mississippi, and work with Children's Miracle Network. And they have a huge event, like board meeting in April. That's at Disney World, actually, and I just went last year. And then this year, they selected me to be the 2025 regional champion, or national champion, actually. So I get to represent the hospital in America and Canada, which is like a dream come true.
That's super cool. Okay, so as that, what is your mission? What's your job? Is it for a year? Do you hold this title for a year? Or you'll hold it forever. I mean, you'll say it. But do you kind of have like duties for the next 12 months or so, Ava, in this position or this role, should I say?
Yes. So I get to travel and go to different areas and talk about my story, and also talk about how my hospital has helped me and my family.
Which goes to show, too, that you're one of many that come through the doors. I think I read a stat earlier where it's like 73 children every couple minutes enter one of these hospitals. What makes the Children's Miracle Network of hospitals different?
I think that something that's really special is not only do they help me with my medical needs, but they're there with us like for everything. Me and my mom always say that they're kind of like our therapists too, because we'll go in for appointments, and if I'm going through something difficult, like say my vision got worse, and I'm like, what do I do? What's next? They're there to comfort us as well, and they feel like family. I think that that's what really makes them different.
As now found it every minute, 72 children enter the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Now, Shala, as a mom, you mentioned had worked at UMC. You knew you wanted to be there for your prenatal and postnatal care. So you had access to a Children's Miracle Network hospital, which is Children's of Mississippi. How important is it that children of Mississippi at least have a hospital that's in driving distance? You were a little lucky in terms of proximity, but if we didn't have Children's in central Mississippi, there would be a lot of kids.
There would be a lot of kids that didn't get the premier health care from the physicians and the healthcare teams that Children's of Mississippi provides. It is so very important. People hear about St. Jude, which is also a member of Children's Miracle Network Hospital.
I know it is a mouthful, Ava. You're going to have to get that down for the next. She's much better at it.
Yeah, she says it flows. But St. Jude is a member of the hospital network. But the fact that Children's of Mississippi is also, and it's the only children's hospital in the state of Mississippi, it's paramount that we support them financially, so that all children can receive the health care that they need.
And thrive the way you have,
Yes,
Ava. I saw you started modeling at the age of 3.
I did.
Snap,
I was
girl.
Scouted in like a Kroger or something like that. We were in a random store, and it was Target. And someone came up to us and they were like, I think that you should model. And of course I couldn't speak, but my mom was like, absolutely not. Like, why would I let my child?
Also weirdo. Like,
every mom knows that their child is beautiful,
correct,
and unique. And at the time, Ava had albinism. We were still kind of figuring out what that was, and very protective of her because people would stare because out of curiosity. So I was a little bit, mama bear, or a lot bit mama bear. So yeah, that happened, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that, but thank you for the compliment. And he asked why, and I said, because I don't really particularly like people staring at her. And this is like a jewel that has stuck with me. He said, well, if people are going to stare and they're curious, the least you can do is give them something beautiful to stare at for life. And that's kind of
how it happened.
It
Also, see, you've appeared in movies. Snap.
I have.
So what movies have you been in?
Shows too. So I got to work with Nickelodeon a few years ago, which this isn't a movie, but I got to work on something called the Abercrombie Kind Crew. So we would talk about things that kids were going through. I think this was around COVID time. So people would watch it at home on YouTube, and it blew up. It had like millions of views. And I also got to work on the set of a Marvel movie. I was an extra.
Oh, that is like on my bucket list of things to do, Ava.
Yes, at the time, it was like my goal. Like, I wanted to work on a Marvel set because me and my dad are like nerds. And so I got to be an extra and work in the background, which is the coolest experience for me.
Hugh Jackman's last film as Wolverine. So that was huge.
I would put that on all my resumes.
And then I got to work on the Carol Burnett Show, which is still on Netflix. And it was like a little kind of talk show where we talked in front of a live audience and gave her and a celebrity guest advice about a situation, which was super cool. I don't remember what episodes I'm on because I never go back and watch the things that I'm on.
Same girl.
But it was but it was so fun.
Yeah, well, obviously you've defied so many odds, Ava, and Shala, now looking almost 17 years after that, you can see that God's plan was a perfect plan.
His plan is always perfect.
For you, Ava. But not every kid who is born with health hurdles, as you can sort of say that way, or born differently abled, has that same kind of drive that you do, Ava, just to sort of, accept or embrace, I'm not sure the right words, and still just go for it. So is that internal, an instinct for you, or are you surrounded by folks who are pouring that into you?
I think that over time it's something that I had to develop. I definitely had to develop the confidence in myself, but also I have definitely so many people around me that love me and care so much about me. And my saying is being unique and being different is your superpower. So when I go and speak and I go and talk to people, that's what I tell them, because I didn't have very many people with albinism growing up that I could look up to. And so I think that working with the hospital and being part of like the ambassador team is such a big honor, because I get to kind of be that person that people can look up to.
Over the last 16 years, obviously, as you're maturing into a wonderful young lady, have you been able to connect with families, or either you, Shala, that's here in Mississippi, that have been born with maybe the same health hurdles that you can show?
So yes, within our research, after Ava was initially diagnosed, after researching, I actually have a cousin who
I don't think we really knew about for a while.
Who lives here locally in Mississippi, who has albinism. And throughout Ava's modeling, I say kind of quote unquote professional career, there was a photographer / actor who invited us out to do a project with them in California. We flew out there, did a project for about 3 days, and on the last day, he had a surprise for us. So again, through our research, I'd spoken with him about Deandra Forrest, who's this huge supermodel. He flew her out. He flew her out so that Ava could meet someone who looked like her to do a project with her, and the photos are just beautiful.
I was going to say, how important is it for you to have someone like that to see, and now that you know that you can be out there and inspire others who you may never know that see you, that connect with you?
I think I didn't really understand or realize that there were other people like me at one point in my life, especially when I was really young and kind of having trouble with my confidence. And so meeting someone that I knew I could relate to was such, I think, a moment of realization for me, and it almost felt comforting. And I think that when I met her, we talked so much about different things going on in school, because she had gone through some of the same things. And then later on, I actually got to meet another girl, I think maybe around the same age as me or maybe a little bit younger, her mom had talked to a photographer that I was working with, and we got to do a photo shoot together.
So she inspired.
And she was so inspired, yeah.
Well, I'm inspired, Ava, and I know the sky is the limits for you and all that you're going to do. You're going to do great work. You're going to represent Mississippi super well over the next year as the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals champion.
Yes,
so get out there and do it. And this won't be the last time we talk. You're welcome back anytime, girl.
Thank you.
All right, but I appreciate you guys' time. But you all stick with us. We got more for you.